Hey there, grab a seat and get comfy because I'm about to tell you one wild story that changed everything for me. It all started on a normal day, a day like any other, when I found myself stuck in a bit of a predicament. You see, I wasn't exactly the guy who had everything figured out. I mean, who does, right? But in my case, I had my sights set on something big, college life, fun, maybe a little romance, and of course, figuring out how to handle life's chaos. At first, everything seemed pretty smooth. I was making my way through the ups and downs of being a student, trying to juggle classes and extracurricular activities, all while dreaming of the future. Then, out of nowhere, an opportunity landed right on my lap. Or more like, it just kind of appeared out of thin air, and I couldn't ignore it. One day, I found myself at this weird crossroads. On one hand, I was dealing with my own insecurities. You know, those feelings of not quite measuring up, especially when it came to relationships. I had a secret ambition to be the guy everyone looked at and thought, wow, he's got it together. But on the other hand, I didn't know how to get there. I wasn't sure how to be the smooth talker, the heartthrob, or the guy who could just figure it out. I didn't have the answers, but I had something even better, an idea. I created a service, something like a dating concierge. I could arrange dates for people, make them feel special, take them on memorable adventures. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Who would sign up for that? But trust me, it was way more genius than it sounded. I knew there was a market for it, a need for people to experience the thrill of a perfect date. It didn't hurt that I was trying to make some extra cash on the side. I never imagined that this little side hustle would lead me to some seriously life-changing moments, though. There was this girl. She came into the picture just as things were starting to get complicated. And let me tell you, she was something else. I don't even think I can describe her without sounding like I'm gushing. But here I am, telling you everything. She was confident, sharp, and oh, so on my league. I had to keep reminding myself to stay grounded, to remind myself that I was just the guy making these dates happen for people. But of course, things didn't stay that simple for long. As I began to set up these elaborate dates, I found myself caught in this emotional whirlwind. I wasn't just organizing for other people anymore. No, I was doing it for me too. I was thinking about how I could be that guy who could pull off the perfect evening, who could be the guy who swept someone off their feet. But the truth was, I wasn't sure I could even do that for myself. With every new date I set up for others, I found myself taking notes, learning from what worked, and more importantly, what didn't. I started thinking, how do I be the kind of person who deserves to be on the other end of these dates? It felt like a constant struggle. I was both playing the role of the guy who had it all together and the guy who was desperately trying to figure it out. The lines were blurring, and I didn't know which side of me was real anymore. But things took a turn, a big one, when this girl, let's call her Sophie, showed up. She was the one who tested everything I thought I knew about relationships. Sophie wasn't the typical girl I was used to. She wasn't into the fancy stuff, the glossy, picture-perfect moments. No, she wanted something real. And in that moment, I realized I didn't have it all figured out. I didn't know what to say, how to impress her, or how to be the person she could count on. But I knew one thing for sure. I wanted to try. Our time together wasn't perfect, not by a long shot. There were awkward silences, times when I didn't know what to do next, and moments when I felt like I was failing. But there were also moments of pure, unfiltered connection, like when we laughed over the most ridiculous thing, and everything else seemed to disappear. Or when we just sat there in complete silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was the kind of silence that felt safe, like we didn't need words to understand each other. I'm not going to lie, this wasn't a fairy tale. No perfect love story wrapped up in a bow. There were misunderstandings, missteps, and moments when I thought I'd lost it all. But those weren't the moments that mattered. What mattered was how we both grew through the process. Sophie taught me something I didn't expect. Relationships aren't about grand gestures or big dates. It's about being there for each other, learning how to compromise, and, most importantly, being yourself, even when it feels like you're fumbling through it. Looking back now, I realized that everything I thought I wanted wasn't actually what I needed. The perfect date wasn't some romantic setup or the biggest, most impressive gesture. No, the real perfect date was when I stopped trying so hard to be someone I wasn't. When I just allowed myself to be who I truly was, imperfections and all. And, in a way, I think Sophie saw that. Now, I can look back at this chapter of my life and laugh at how ridiculous I was. I was trying to perfect something that didn't need perfecting. I was so caught up in trying to make everything flawless that I missed the beauty of just living in the moment. But here I am, telling you this story, and I hope you're hearing me. I hope you're hearing that the most important thing is to just be yourself. No matter how messy it gets, no matter how many wrong turns you take, as long as you're true to who you are, that's all that matters. That's the real perfect date. And you know what? I wouldn't change a thing about how it all turned out. It's funny how life works. Sometimes, the things that seem like mistakes turn out to be the best decisions you ever make. So if you're ever stuck, wondering whether you got it all together, just remember, you don't need to. Just live, just be, and everything else will fall into place.